everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I've got Stephen Clifford with me. Now, this is Stephen's second podcast with us. We're doing a series of 3 podcasts that are around SAP and ERP, but there's some big SAP changes coming. And there's also the fact that SAP implementation programs are huge and scary, and I think just some insight into someone who I deem as an expert, and that's what my client told me when my client hired Stephen. That I think the insight that he brings is just going to be really valuable. So, Stephen, just for the benefit of everyone, why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure. Thank you, Mark. Stephen Clifford. I've been around SAP and other ERPs, but mainly SAP for 30 years. There must be an easier way of earning a living, but I love it. I have a passion for it. It's hairy, scary stuff, but that's what I do. Hope to do for a few more years.
Well, I think now that we've got to the stage of not only do you do SAP implementation, but you've also been doing SAP recovery for quite a long time. I think we're at the expert level now, whereby, I think the information that you give to people on this podcast, they should really listen to. There's a lot of time being spent in SAP and a lot of lessons learned. And I think it's always beneficial to hear from those people that have done it before. So thank you for your time. Let's tell everyone what question we asked ourselves, and I guess what question that we're going to be talking about is how to take the pain out of the SAP upgrade. And the reason that we chose this title is because a lot of companies out there are going to need to upgrade their SAP to SAP for HANA at some stage relatively soon. And I think a lot of companies are just putting it off and putting it off and putting it off for whatever reason. And I thought it might be nice for us to speak about that and maybe get some tips from you to how to take the pain away.
Sure. Well, there's no easy way to do it. Anyone that's been through an SAP program knows that. But there are simple things that you can do to reduce the pain, reduce the risk, and getting the right partners is so important. Too many clients rush to work with Big Four partners. But it's no silver bullet. It's no guarantee of success. Just look around, do some research on the internet. Which partners, who's done this repeatedly successfully? I've always been, I'm ex-PwC. I've worked with associates and with Mark's firm, Williams Bain, people who've worked for Big Four but have been good enough to go and work for themselves. I would always recommend pulling together a hybrid team like that. But moving from ECC to HANA, it's a big uplift. It was a bit like the old R3 move some years ago. But there are simple things that can be done that clients sadly just don't. They don't learn the lessons, and a few minutes research would sort of indicate the way to go. Choosing people who've done it before, not necessarily Big Four. There's no silver bullet with them. Pulling in, we talked about in the previous podcast, reference sites. Everyone's got a world-class methodology, world-class people. Do your research. Clients, you've got to interview everybody that comes onto the job. You've got to make sure that the previous clients that they've worked with, you go and talk to the clients. Well, why did you use this SI partner? How wonderful were they? What worked really well? What would you recommend differently? And also turning, there are one or two of us around the block, getting a bit old now, who've done turnarounds. We've gone in when these programs go badly wrong, and the advice, the learnings that we've got is gold dust. It's gold dust to new projects. if you could bake into this the planning and preparation of an S4 HANA upgrade program, the learnings that turnaround people have got, you will eliminate or have more control over more criteria in your project than those that don't. It staggers me that most troubled programs that I get involved in get asked to go and do some advice, some forensic review, and sometimes the turnaround of them is planning. They don't have plans. They just don't have a plan. Well, they usually have a couple of really good PowerPoint slides that look very, very pretty for the people that sign off the checks. But there's no detail. There's nothing underneath it. And failing to plan is planning to fail. Getting good people in, planning it. I know the business case is a very difficult thing to do for HANA.
Yeah.
Proving that there's a very positive net present value of making the upgrade. It's a very difficult thing to prove, but it still doesn't obviate the need to actually do it. You've got to go through it to get people on board to sign up to changes, process convergence, those sorts of things that will bring benefit, let alone the AI value that obviously is one of the very difficult things to put an objective value on. But that, all the AI stuff that's coming down the tube at the moment, there will be major benefits to harness into a business case.
I agree with that. I think as the businesses are looking to build a business case to move to HANA, I think the one thing that they're also considering, and this is happening as time's carrying on, that, on one side we've got the business case and we're looking for profit contribution and investment ROI. But on the flip side, we've also got to look at the increased risk because ECC is coming out of support. So ultimately, even if there's zero business case for this, the fact that it's coming out of support means that you've got to do it anyway because you've got to be seen to be doing risk mitigation practices to protect the investors and protect the shareholders. So it's your duty to upgrade if you know that it's coming out of support. So, I think the business case is important, but there'll come a point where some businesses don't need the business case to do this because they're forced into doing it. My worry is, though, that if everyone starts to leave it till the last minute, and we see this all the time with interim management, and I know consultancies are exactly the same, and I'm guessing the SI partners are exactly the same, that when it gets tremendously busy, and then you say, great, we need some support, we're going to do our ERP implementation, do you honestly think that you're getting the A-team at that point? Because ultimately, that A-team can't be stretched across multiple clients. You're going to get what you're given. So going back to your original point, which was make sure you choose your partners, not only choose your partners, but choose the people within those partner organizations to make sure that you get the best of the best. And is that something that you've had to do before?
I'd always recommend it. I've seen so many situations where clients have gone with an SI partner and they're not happy at all with some of the people that are running, some of the external consultants who are providing advice, and they want to get rid of some of them and bring them in. So again, I always talk about getting a contract fit for purpose at the very outset of a program, the ability to lock in key staff. The client should always interview the key team leads, project manager, program manager from the external partners. They should interview them just as though they were third-party consultants. Make sure they're there for the duration of the project. And if you're not happy with somebody, it may not be just ability, it could be cultural fit, then the ability to switch them out as well. So that's another reason why I would never recommend fixed cost. But you really need the best people there, the best people that are going to give value to your internal team, and help the business people internally grow into becoming as good as the external consultants. And I've seen that happen on some projects because they had great people. Make sure you deploy your A team to the project. Don't just put 10 people in the project team that have fallen out with their bosses, or they're in the departure suite or something like this. You want the A team in that project helping you deliver your solution for the next 20 years.
Yeah, I've seen that before. I've seen that in multiple. I mean, like you have been doing this probably over 20 years now, but I've seen a whole myriad of ways to implement SAP and any ERP. And I've got to say that some of the best ones that I've seen have used this sort of hybrid model of internal people, but they have to be the best.
Yeah.
This is not
No.
you can have Joe Blogs because that job's not, we don't do that job anymore. That's fine. Or we lost that customer and they were the account manager. So, you can have him. And he's a really good lad. Type. You don't want that. You literally, you want to be
Can't afford.
not making.
Can't afford to do that.
Absolutely.
In fact, if I'm client side program director for the client managing the external SI partner, I will interview the internal team that the client is proposing putting on the project. That's important. It's really important that you do that. You want people that are going to grow. These are your managers of the future. These are people who are going to be designing your solution for the next 20 years. And key messages that come through in having that A team is these engagements have got to be business led, not consultant led. You have to manage the external consultant. So getting the team trained internally with the best people from the business is really important. And then how do they engage effectively with the external project SI partner is really important. Just thinking of something, tickled myself, but it's not funny really. There was one project a couple of years ago where in the design workshops that were being run, the client wasn't, they claimed they were engaged, they were really focused in this project, but they weren't. The consultants produced all the materials, all the slides for the design sessions, which is wrong. It should be 2 or 3 in a box. It should be business person, functional person, IT, and the external partner, 3 in a box. And they're all producing deliverables. The client doesn't just sit back and let the consultant do it to them. It's got to be business led. So they were producing all these slides for design sessions, and the client couldn't even be bothered to turn up to those design sessions. I found this out after the case because I wouldn't have put up with that. They were hiding behind their desks on the same physical site, in their offices, tucked away.
Wow.
And they would just dial in on Zoom with sort of cursory. And I found this out after I went. I would have had the carpet up if it had been me. And then the poor consultants who were trying to do the job, they'd bump into their client representatives in the queue in the canteen at lunchtime. They could turn up for that. These are real, seriously. And the client was trying.
These are real examples, aren't they?
The client was trying to give the external party a hard time that they weren't doing a good job.
Yeah, I think
the observation was you're not engaged at all.
I always say this to clients, and that is that you've got an element of your partners, and no matter who your partners are, whether they're Big Four or a specialist consultancy or a big SI that everyone knows or a smaller SI that just seems to have wind in their sails at the moment and doing really well. It doesn't really matter if you're not pulling in. If you're allowing them to push in, that's going to be a problem at some stage. You need this internal team led by someone who's a good specialist who can manage external suppliers. You need them to pull it in, because if you don't, this has been done to you, not with you.
Yeah, and you'll lose control. And that is such a key thing. And it goes much further. I always say to clients, you need to run the program management office. So if I come into a client, I want to have a planner, a status reporting person, a finance person, and the change lead in the PMO, program management office, working for me, i.e. you, the client. We will run that. We will manage the external party, the external SI partner. And please, no more than one. One's enough. I've seen where there's been 3. They wonder why nothing ever happened. That was a big bank. Anyway, the client runs the PMO. You manage one source of the truth, the status the SI partner's giving you in the business. So
Yeah.
with your three in a box modus operandi, you get much more accurate, objective status reporting. Plus, you don't want to be paying an external party to be doing that, do you? Do it internally, bring some external people in, and build a competent team. You've got a more effective way then of managing the external party. So it's a business-led transformation.
I agree with that. I think, that's when I've seen really successful ERPs being delivered before. They've had a good SI partner where they've interviewed the people, made sure that they've got the A team. They've also had a management consultancy, even if that's just to manage risk or governance or something like that. These are big companies, by the way, that can afford to do that and want to and need to do that. But also a really strong internal team. And that internal team is made up of full-time employees that work for the business, but then also dedicated specialists who are interim managers or independent consultants. And then basically that works as a really good collegiate team. You've got a mix of deep experience. You've got an element of people within the business who can carry that knowledge forward and continue to keep carrying that knowledge forward. Great user acceptance in that kind of situation. A great SI partner because they're very good technically and that's what they should do. And an element of understanding your risks and your governance because you've got someone else then. And let's be honest, a Big Four badge in the corner on a risk report or a governance report means one less question in the boardroom. So, I understand why they do that, but you don't need a big team, I don't think, from the externals.
I saw one project where there were 3 PMOs, 3 program management office teams. The client was paying for all 3. And the one that should have been doing the job, i.e. managing the whole thing, just weren't effective enough. The business needs to lead these engagements. It's one of Gartner's key things. An SAP project has got to be business-led, not IT-led, not SI-led, business-led. And you can only do that by having the PMO on the client side. And you are calling for the status reports and challenging from the project managers across the project on a weekly basis. And you then report up to your steerco executives.
And you're right. I mean, all these tips are really to help take the pain away because, ultimately it's going to be difficult. No one wants to embark on something like this, but to some extent, like we said before with ECC coming out of support, it's got to be done. So, bring in the right people, make sure that your business case is as solid as you can get it, make sure that everyone's on the same page and bite the bullet and start it, because I think if you don't, you're going to be in a situation where time's running out. You're not going to get the best people on the market at that stage, and you're going to be fighting for attention. And I don't think anyone wants to be in that position.
Correct. There are a few grey-haired members of my community left that are working. I'm staggered in recent times how many have retired. And there's this big HANA program coming up. So, your 30-year-old program management experts. It's where it's at.
I think clients also have to be very careful of people that might have come out of an SI or might have come out of a large consultancy. And yes, it looks like they've been in all these different organizations leading, delivering SAP, but find out what delivering really means. Yeah. Find out what ownership really means. I think to get the depth of experience, you've got to go back even further and to look when people were delivering into ECC, not looking when people's been doing upgrades and things like that. So I think you've got to be very careful who you choose, both from an external partner perspective, but also from an internal person who's an external consultant, but working on your behalf. You've just got to be really careful who you choose and get the support of some expertise around there so that, There's us who's done a lot of supporting clients with ERP transformations. But there's also 3 or 4 other companies in the UK who are just as good as us to deliver stuff like that. But reach out and get some expertise.
Agree.
Brilliant. Okay. In terms of sort of takeaways, if we readdress the question how to take the pain out of the SAP upgrade, what would you give someone as a takeaway?
My main recommendation is invest in bringing somebody in at this stage while you're scratching your heads, you're anxious about the mere thought of going down an SAP program again. Bring somebody in that's done it. The route to SAP. You need a roadmap that says, okay, how are we going to manage risk? How are we going to select a partner? How are we going to contract with a partner? How are we going to do this? What might our rollout of SAP across various geographies take place? What sort of team do we need? What might the business case look like? And what's the plan? There's 3 things important in an SAP transformation program: the plan, and the plan.
That leads us really nicely on to what will be the next podcast that we do. And the next podcast is implementing SAP successfully by planning. In terms of the question that we were asking ourselves today for this particular podcast was how to take the pain out of the SAP upgrade. And I think we've done a good job of addressing that. I think if someone is thinking of an upgrade, I think the quick advice is start it sooner rather than later. Pick the best team and start it. Let's go. Great. Stephen, thank you very much for your time, sir. I think you've added a lot of value in the last 20 minutes. So thank you again.
Excellent. Thank you.